Christophe, we have a lot of questions in the chat, so we have to choose some of them. And I have directly a short question for Professor Potapov. This question is present in the chat, and because you manage a huge number of cases of patients with Impella 5.5 or 5.0, which is, in your experience, the longest support time? And do you have any suggestion to try to prolong the duration of the pump? And how do you manage the pump exchange if the pump stops?
Well, the longest duration is 3 months. It was a patient on durable device with severe infection. So we implanted Impella in this patient and explanted durable device, treated the infection, and then re-implanted the new device again after 3 months on Impella. Marina did publish some results about some kind of treatment. We did it first with SALS, but it was not satisfying because the SALS duration is only 1 week, 2 weeks. So we switched to Impella. So longer duration, 3 months. The second question is how to exchange the pump. I do implant Impella through axillary artery with a graft. The graft is tunneled outside, and there are two possibilities. Let me say many possibilities. The first one, the patient is completely dependent on the pump. So in this situation, you have two options. The first one, you do the same graft. You put the same graft on the other side, contralaterally. Implant the second pump, and if the pump is still running, of course, because, for example, you have high purge pressure, no flow, purge flow, so you know that the pump will stop in 5 minutes, in 5 hours, but it will stop. So you have to do it. So you go to the contralateral side, implant the pump, the new pump, and take out the old one. The second possibility is to implant the pump through the same graft. So in this situation, the easiest way is you have time, you suture the second graft to the outside portion of the graft and insert the second pump through this second sleeve. So I have one sleeve for one pump, and new sleeve, suture it to the old one, and then insert as usual. And insert the pump through the sleeve. Don't forget to wash out the graft to remove all the debris, all the thrombi, because we will collect this in the new Impella, and it's not unusual that the second pump will produce hemolysis, and then you have to exchange the second pump too, and only the third pump will work properly. That it happens. So, and the third possibility is, in this situation, if the pump is still working, you can put the introducer just close to the first pump, and then implant the pump through the introducer, as you know. But it's very difficult to clean the graft, because you have no access, you have no possibility to remove all the debris. And if the pump is stopping and the patient is not dependent on the pump, then just remove the broken pump and clean the graft and insert the new one. If the situation is very unstable, you may first put the arterial cannula of the ACLS, put the arterial cannula through the graft, establish ACLS support for 1 hour, and then implant Impella on the other side, then remove the ACLS cannula.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think that, Christophe, we have to go on. Do you have some question from the chat?
I'm still muted. I have an interesting question for Dieter, actually. Do you routinely use a PA catheter in your ECMO patients, especially during weaning?
We are not using it routinely, but we have a very low threshold to add a pulmonary artery catheter in patients on temporary mechanical circulatory support. Specifically in VA ECMO patients, I think the major advantage of a PA catheter is that you can take a wedge, so you can have a good idea about the severity of left heart congestion on VA ECMO support. So you can use this information to decide whether you have to unload your patient on VA ECMO, yes or no. Cardiac output is, of course, not reliable during VA ECMO support. First of all, you only measure your residual cardiac output going through the pulmonary circulation. And the second, this is also not really reliable because you lose part of your indicator into your ECMO circuit. So the measurement of cardiac output using a PAC on VA ECMO support is really not reliable.
I have some comments to Dieter's presentation, and I actually disagree with some points. The 2 points where I disagree is first, well, how we do it a different way. We do in SLS over Impella. So all patients receive ECMella, almost all patients, and then we start to wean first at SLS and then at SLS out, and then start to wean Impella. This is the first point. The second point is that, so again, always the majority of the patients are ECMella patients in our institution. Even if you do it after 2 hours or next day, which you have to do it to unload the left ventricle. The second point is the time point of weaning of MCS, independent it's SLS or ECMella or Impella. Our patient should be free from inotropic support. And we do not lie ourselves supporting them with a little bit inotropes and then wean the device. And then the patient stayed on inotropes for days and days and days. And then we decide that it's not possible to wean them from inotropes, but he already suffering from pneumonia, from sepsis and whatever long-term ICU course, and the patient died. The patient, in our opinion, should be free from inotropic support. If it's possible to wean Impella, he will go home. If it's not possible to wean, then implant long-term device. The Levos-Mendon is discussable, but it is actually the same. You just move this time point of decompensation maybe in 2 weeks, on 1 week. But it's the same lying yourself for what? To move it out of the ICU for some weeks?
Yes, I want to ask to Dieter another question about this topic of weaning, that even for me it's the most delicate point in the journey of cardiogenic shock patients, mostly for the long-term perspective of being discharged with heart failure symptoms or not to be discharged at all. And I would like to know if, do you have any experience, for example, in weaning patients already on guideline-directed medical therapies for heart failure, not only without inotropes?
We usually don't start heart failure therapy during the temporary mechanical circulatory support trajectory. Regarding the inotropes, I fully agree that it's not the aim to wean a patient on very high doses of inotropes. So we generally just add a small amount of inotropes to give the heart an additional kick during the stress of the weaning. And with a small amount, for example, we consider like dobutamine weaning on 4 to 6 gammas of dobutamine, not more than that. Just a small amount of inotropes to facilitate the weaning a little bit.
Just small correction. 6 gamma of dobutamine is a threshold for high urgency acceptance of our patients. 6 gamma of dobutamine is not a small amount. It's really good amount.
Yeah.
Well, there is actually an ongoing philosophy in MCS world, if I can call it like this. You have the inotrope MCS supporting institutions and the ones who completely keep them off. And I think we urgently need those trials to know what we should do and what will be the best, because it will be very difficult to see this in a trial, but there are believers and non-believers. Yeah. So maybe, Mara, we have time for final, very short one.
Yeah. Do you want to share one very, very short question?
Yes, I had one which was very short, but is quite intriguing. How long do you keep your MCS before giving up on recovery? Do we 1, 2, 4, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? Never. It's a short one, and I think it's for Marina.
Yes. So okay, yes, it's a very intriguing question, because of course there is not a correct or a wrong answer. In our experience, I would say that 3 weeks we test very early for recovery, and we see, as discussed before, in the first 10 days we have an idea. And in our experience, 3 weeks may be considered a very long support, and if no patients with 3 weeks of support experience the recovery, these patients are normally bridged to LVAD. But there is not a maximum duration. I think that there is a cutoff before, after that, you have no chances to see native heart recovery.
Okay. It's also important because you gain complications after 2-3 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And it's very dangerous, because if you add some complication, then the patient will not be bridged to anything. And so, of course, you have to test it, but you have to test this as soon as possible, of course. Of course. I think that we have to close this session, and I would like to conclude with a couple of messages after these great lectures. And I wanted to thank, of course, all the speakers for sharing their huge experience in the field and to take part of the discussion. I hope that that you all connected from your hospital enjoyed this multidisciplinary meeting and have added some new information to your knowledge. And thank you to Professor El Thani and EACTAIC for organizing and supporting the meeting. So I would like to say that we are at the point that new pathway of care of cardiogenic shock are emerging from the clinical ground, and that the process of transition is now modern and more engaging, and the doctors could be deeply involved in the strategy of care that is mainly based in ICU. And so in particular, the anesthesiologist should have a role as protagonist along the way of cardiogenic shock care. And finally, optimization of waiting time to final therapies is the key factor for better outcomes. And I think that that's all. Thank you very much to all of you, and to all the doctors connected to this webinar. See you the next time.
Thanks so much, Dr. Anamara, and special thanks to Professor Giovanni Landoni and Dr. Marina Pieri for their efforts to organize and support this EACTAIC seminar, this episode. And this is the series 2 in the second episode. Special thanks to all of you to coming this evening, this morning, wherever you are based on. And special thanks to the esteemed faculty and the speakers for their efforts invested in this seminar episode. I want to remind all of you, you have to complete the survey feedback, which will send to you to claim your certificate. Special thanks to AIM, the organizing company behind the stage. And I'm delighted to announce about the next EACTAIC events. It's the first one, it will be in May 20 to 23rd, the EACTAIC Eco Course in Milano. And then we will have further seminars, episodes. They will be on July 1st and from Valencia and July 24. Then we will have in October, and then we will have first on June 16. It will be in June 11. It will be coming from Alist on Belgium, and then we will have in July 24 from Valencia General Hospital. And then we will have the annual Congress after this. I invite all of you to join us physically and remotely in all EACTAIC events and have a lovely evening. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.